Hi everyone, I'm Lisa Curcio and I would love to welcome you here to Lisa's Stamp Studio. Today is Monday, it is May 22nd, the year is 2023. This is a special YouTube premiere, which means I'm here live with you in the chat. So be sure to log into your YouTube account, which uses your Gmail address, so that I can chat with you and you can chat with all the other paper crafters. It also allows you to leave a comment if you are here watching the replay. We would love to interact with you. Oh, do I have a fun fold card for you tonight? We are going to expand your card making to create an accordion center panel card. You're going to love this because it's going to give you a lot of options. I'm going to demonstrate it one way, and I have several other samples to share with you on variations. I actually learned the card from one of my customers named Arlene. So thank you, Arlene. I want to make sure too that you know all about the free project sheet. You're going to find that linked down in the video description below when tonight's premiere is over. So make sure you head down there and click on that link, which will navigate you over to my website, where you can download the pictures, cutting dimensions, and supplies. And then finally, I want to take a minute to introduce you to Grace Hudson. You'll see Grace's name in blue off here to the side. She's moderating tonight. She's here to answer your questions and provide links for you. All right, we're ready to go. Let's get started. I'm going to move those buttons out of the way, and I'm going to bring in my paper trimmer and scorer. This is the beauty of this product, is that we're able to do both. The scoring blade and the cutting blade navigate up and down out of the way so they can stay on that clear track at the exact same time. We're going to start with 2 pieces for the base. And this is beautiful, the brand new boho blue cardstock. Now we're going to do several score lines, and it's going to be identical on both. You want to make sure that you have the 6 1/4 inch measurement here across the top. All the cutting and scoring dimensions, again, are in that project sheet, so you don't have to worry about writing them all down. I'm going to go ahead and lift up that arm. That first one is going to be at 1.5 inches, and you're going to see that I'm using this ledge here at the top to keep the cardstock nice and straight. So we'll go ahead and score. The next one is going to be at 2 3/4 of an inch, so I'm going to slide over and we'll score again. And the last one is at 4 5/8, which is all the way over here, just past the half, and we'll score. So this is one piece. We're going to go ahead and do that one more time. Those measurements again were 1.5, 2 3/4, and then the last one, as I said, was 4 5/8, which is over here. And then we are all set. Now there's going to be one more component to this card, and it's going to be the center panel, as we discussed. Now I did score this ahead of time, but I'll do it for you on camera just so that you can see the measurement. So this card, actually, I sized up because I'm going to do another layer to this. So I actually scored this in half, and this is going to be scored at 5.5 inches because it's 3.5 by 11. All right, we're good. I'm going to set that trimmer off to the side. I'm also going to set the center panel for this card off to the side because we'll come back to that. What we're going to do now is we are going to make sure that the 1.5 inch section here, and I know it's going to be hard to see on camera, is going to be to the outside. So remember, these are identical. So we're going to have to flip this one so that the 2 wider areas are here in the center. Again, this is 1.5. This is a 1 1/4 inch section. And then we have our larger sections. We are going to start by taking these 2 pieces and we're going to fold the center panels back on top of themselves. And I'm just going to crease those so that you can see them. I'm grabbing my bone folder and I'm going to go over those creases with that bone folder to reinforce them. And I'm going to do the exact same thing on this side. Now the next step is we're going to have to create this card so that these are staying together, but that's what the center panel is for. So the easiest way I found to do that is to flip them over, and we're going to secure them. And I absolutely love using the Post-it labeling and cover-up tape. This is not found in my online store because it's not a Stampin' Up! Product, but I have it linked for you on my website under Shop Craft Room Favorites. Go over there and check it out. Love it because you can just dispense what you need. And I'm going to rip that in half lengthwise. With those crease ends together, I'm looking at the top and the bottom to make sure they're as even as possible, and I want them butted up right next to each other. And then I'm going to put that tape down here, and that's going to hold them together because we are going to work on this side. This is the center that's going to create the center panel. Now these other panels here, we have here and here, and we have another one here on both sides. We're going to decorate while it's flat. That's easier for me. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to bring in some designer series paper, and I have a layer of cardstock. Now I want to call your attention to this. This is a little bit wider than this one. So the dimensions inside your project sheet are going to be very, very important. Obviously, you're going to need to cut two, one for each side of each of those panels. So let's go ahead and start with the one that I have here, which is for the interior right here, which I call the inside panel inside your project sheet. Now this designer series paper is absolutely beautiful, isn't it? This comes from the designer series paper stack called Countryside Inn. I'm using my Stampin' Seal Plus on what's going to be my wrong side tonight, but again, double-sided paper's so pretty. Now this paper does happen to have a direction, so be sure if yours does as well that all your panels are going to be attached in the same manner so that all the right sides are facing up. And then we're going to attach that here. Now I did the other ones before you joined me, so I've got another small one here, and then I have two larger ones here. Now I did those ahead of time just to save a little bit of time here in the video. So we're going to start by adhering the larger area here, which is here when I call the outside panels. So I'm going to take this first one and I'm going to flip that over and we're going to add our adhesive. And then this is going to go here. Again, making sure that your direction is all going the right way. I like to turn my cardstock horizontally so that I can see exactly where I'm going, leaving a small margin all the way around, and then we're going to tack that in place. The next one is the small one. So let's go ahead and flip that over as well, and we're going to add our adhesive to the back side. I'm using my Stampin' Seal Plus. It's very, very strong, so I don't have to cover the entire piece of cardstock. And again, I'm going to turn that horizontally to make it a little easier for my hand. And I'm doing my best to align the top white edges of that cardstock so it matches the panel next to it. Now we're going to do the exact same thing now on this side. So we're going to flip that over. And I had pre-started this one before you joined me. It's got some adhesive already on the back. And that one is going to go here. And then we'll do one more of the inside panels, as I said, which is this one. And again, we'll add our adhesive. The silicone craft sheet is this taupe colored mat that's underneath me. And I absolutely love that when I'm using any adhesive whatsoever, because adhesive, liquid glue, and hot glue will not stick to it. And you're going to see how important that is tonight. Now I'm going to crease up on these so you can see how they go. The very first outside panel, I want you to create what's called a mountain fold, which means it's going to come to a peak. I am big on reinforcing all those score lines. That's really important. The next one is going to go down, which means a valley fold. And again, we're going to go over that with the bone folder. This is a good time to check those edges and make sure that they're good and they're even. Now we're going to do the exact same thing now on this side. So this is going to be a mountain. And I'm going to go over that with the bone folder. And then this is going to be a valley, which means it's going to come to the inside. And you can see that accordion all coming into play here. Now these score lines that are here are naturally just going to go to the inside, so you really don't have to do too much with those. But now that we have the base put together, let's go ahead and let's work on the focal point, which is actually the center panel card. I'm going to put that off to the side, and you'll recall that we had this piece here. Let's go ahead and let's fold that in half on that score line. We're going to measure that up, and we're going to go over that with the bone folder to reinforce that. This is where we're going to do our decorating, and I'm going to do that before I start attaching it just to make it a lot easier for my hand. I'm going to bring in some scrap white cardstock here, and I'm going to do a little bit of stamping. I'm going to be using the Memento black ink pad for this, and I've pulled out some images here from a brand new stamp set. I want to show it to you. It's called Lazy Days. I have really enjoyed this. There are beautiful detailed dies, some of which I've pulled out. So we can make beautiful country porch sayings for all types of occasions. I've gone ahead and I've pulled out the small bird. And I'm going to stamp that here. And then I've got the birdhouse, and I'm going to ink that up. And we're going to stamp that here. And I'm leaving space between them because there are separate dies for all these pieces. And this one is the basket with the greenery. I am going to be using alcohol-based Stampin' Blends markers to color this. And I'm going to move you in just a little bit closer so you can see a bit more of the detail. Now, pretty simple to color, and they're small. Now, one of the things I want to talk to you about when you're using alcohol-based markers is, of course, the beauty is two things. You have no streaking, and the second is that you can shade. So there is a light and a dark color to each of the Stampin' Blend's alcohol-based marker colors. But sometimes these little tiny areas are very, very difficult to shade because there isn't a whole lot of room. I'm not sure if you know this or not, but you can use these independently just like markers and get that flawless finish with no streaking. But what I want to teach you today is I want to teach you how to shade a little tiny area with just a little bit of color without overpowering it, because I have all the other images already finished for you. So I'm going to come into the light boho blue. This is the dark of the Stampin' Blend's alcohol marker. They are double-sided. Feel free to use the side that's most comfortable for you. There's a beautiful chisel tip here on the brush. So I'm going to go ahead and add that light right around here, around the wing, and a little bit underneath the body. But I don't want to color the entire bird. I'm going to let that process for a few seconds because the alcohol base in that marker needs to evaporate. If you lay color on top of color too quickly, it's going to have a tendency to bleed outside of the lines. So you need to allow it to process. Now, if you add a little bit of dark to it, you can get a little bit more definition. And I'm going to add that a little bit here to the back and across the bottom. And then I'm going to let it sit. Now, in and of itself, it's kind of weird, isn't it? It's kind of got some harsh lines on when it starts and when it finishes. So this is where the color lifter comes into play. And I think this is an overlooked alcohol-based marker when you're using the blends, and I think it's one you absolutely have to have. It's worth the few dollars. What this does is lift and move color. It's not only great for lifting, but if you have a little tiny mistake outside the lines, you can literally take that chiseled end and you can work outside the edge, and that's going to actually kind of wet the paper. Do you see it? And the alcohol is going to spread and remove the color outside the lines. What I'm going to do here is I'm actually just going to lighten this up by dragging some of that wing color into the rest of the body. The beauty is this is now going to leave some pigmentation here at the back end of the bird while still leaving the bird kind of white, kind of gives it a little bit of a seagull finish. Now, like I said, I already have these finished for you, so let me bring those in here. So here's the birdhouse, the basket, and of course I have the bird, which is here. Now I'm going to go ahead and move these up off screen just a little bit so we don't lose them because I know they're kind of small. And the dies for that did all the work. You do not have to fussy cut. So all those pieces were inside of here. One of the things I want to talk to you about is when you die cut these images. Naturally, when you are die cutting small images like this die is going to tend to shift when you put it on your plate. So go back to the Post-it note labeling and cover-up tape. Set it where you want it. Use that tape and anchor it down across the paper and the die, and then run it through your machine. You're going to find this paper has lots of uses, and it doesn't ruin the paper, and it can be used numerous times before it has to be discarded. Now, in addition to those small pieces, I want to show you some other pieces I die cut. So this obviously is the porch valance with the post, and this is the porch banister. So I decided to create my own scene. And I love these detailed dies, not only because they die cut perfectly and easily, but that you can build your own scene based on the pieces in the stamp set. And you can see there's a bunch you can do with this. So I'm going to push these up and out of the way because I want to bring this in, and I'm going to bring in the silicone craft sheet underneath it because we're going to have to do a little bit of adhering. I am going to work near the bottom portion of this center panel card. So I'm going to lay this out for you first so you have an idea. You're going to see that the top half of the valance of the porch is wider than the post. So make sure you stay within this card perimeter. How low you go is entirely up to you, and you can see it's much longer than what we're going to need. Now you can use adhesive sheets on the back of your cardstock before you die cut it. But to be honest with you, I find with these little tiny intricate dies, I have lots of little pieces to pull off. It's just as easy for me to glue it. So I'm going to turn it upside down. Now the multi-purpose liquid glue is sold in my online store, and as much as I love it because it dries quickly and it's very, very strong, the tip on here tends to be a little bit too wide for these detailed areas. So I literally took the same exact glue and I poured it inside here. This is a precision tip glue applicator. It has a needle tip on it, silicone lid so it doesn't dry out. That rubber band's going to help me hold that down in place. And I love this because I can get into those little tiny areas. Now, as I mentioned, the glue is very, very strong. So I want to make sure I've got it flowing nice and easy here so that it's going to come out well. And I'm going to use just a little bit here and there. And you're going to see that I'm actually dragging the tip. And because it's so strong, I don't have to cover every single little area. Once you're happy with that, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna pick that up. I'm gonna use my Take Your Pick tool to help me. And I am going to gravitate here near the bottom, once again, making sure that the top of that valance stays within the card perimeter. I'm doing my best to make sure that it's straight, and I'm gonna give that a good push so that it's gonna hold itself in place. I know that I've placed glue probably a little bit further than when I need it, but that's okay because we can trim off the excess here. I'm gonna let that sit and dry for just another moment, and we're gonna work on that column for the porch. So I'm gonna do the exact same thing here. I'm gonna go ahead and add a little bit of glue just by dragging the needle down these post areas, which are a lot wider and easier to cover and nice and quick and easy. And then I'm going to take this and I'm going to butt this up literally against the post. So there's going to be a tiny bit of overlap here and straight edge here at the bottom to the bottom of the card. And we're just going to press that in place and let that dry. There are several other dies inside this package that work beautifully in conjunction with the stamps themselves. And you'll see one here, and it's the ivy. Now I did this ahead of time just to save a little bit of time, and I die cut 2 of those. Aren't those pretty? Let's go ahead and let's attach these. Now you can start at the top or the bottom. There's no right or wrong way. And once again, we're gonna need just a little bit here and there just to kind of get this stuck, and it's good and strong like I told you. So this is quick and easy. I'm gonna go ahead and work near the top, and I'm just gonna make this look like it's wrapped around that post, and then I'm just gonna tack it here. The curvature to this die is perfect for all the pieces in your porch scenes. And then I'm going to take this other one and we're going to do the same. Now this is going to be a little bit stronger than what we need. So I know I'm going to have to trim a little bit off like I do the valance to my porch, but that's okay. I'm just going to make sure I have enough on there so it's going to reach. And then I'm just going to tuck these 2 together so that they'll somewhat meet. And we're going to press that in place. I like to let everything dry. And again, working on the silicone craft sheet means I don't get glue on my work surface, but it's easy to rub off once it dries. Now let's go ahead and let's finish building this, and then we're going to go ahead and trim it. Now the next thing I have here is my basket with my greenery. Now this time I decided I wanted this elevated, so I'm going to bring in my dimensionals here. So I'm going to add 1 here and 1 here, because I want to make sure that these are good and balanced on my card, especially for mailing. And then what I'm going to do is add this here in this negative section here at the bottom. Now this can hang off just a little bit because you're going to find that this is a little narrower than what we're going to need. And I just want to make sure that I fill my gap. So I'm going to attach that here. My next item is going to be the birdhouse. So I'm going to flip that upside down as well, and I'm going to add a single dimensional to the back, and then we'll remove that backing. This now is going to help hide this area here and create just kind of a little bit of visual interest from the area here to here. And I love this because it kind of fills in the gap on the top right side of the image. Now the last is our bird, and I'm going to go back to that precision tip glue once again, and I'm going to add a little bit of glue here to the back, and I'm going to take that bird and I'm going to anchor him right here on top of the banister to my porch and press that in place. Now my Take Your Pick tool is a wonderful thing because if I need to kind of gravitate things around, because I can see this is a little bit crooked, I can kind of put it underneath my project where my dimensional is and just give this a slight twist to help reposition things. This is interchangeable, comes with that putty tip, which is going to pick up those small pieces, which makes this fabulous. I'm going to let this continue, sit and dry for just a moment. I am going to cover this up, and I do want to give you a tip about this. There's nothing worse than a yucky tip when you're going to put something away. So pinch it through the silicone craft sheet and clean off any excess glue that has dried on there, and then go ahead and cap it. Be sure you store it straight up and down. Here at the top, we've got a big blank empty area, don't we? So I decided to do a little bit of stamping. So I'm going to bring in the coordinating ink pad to the cardstock. This is one of the beauty of Stampin' Up! Products is the color coordination. We're going to go ahead and open this up. And inside that exact same stamp set, there were 2 images for clouds. Now, I love the idea of filling that with some clouds above there, but I wasn't sure on the positioning. I'm bringing in a scrap piece of paper here because this is where I'm going to do a little bit of stamping off to lighten those colors. Now, before you joined me, I took the liberty of using a couple greetings in the stamp set to create the greeting for the front of my card. but I'm going to pause here. Now, I heat set these in white embossing powder. I'm not going to do that in tonight's video, and simply because I'm just trying to save a little bit of time. But I have an entire video, and actually numerous here on my YouTube channel, about Heat Embossing 101 that will teach you everything. But I want to show you a trick that I did here. I'm going to pull out the stamp set so that you can see this. You're going to notice that these are all individual, but I wanted them kind of closely related to create a phrase. So what I did, because it's photopolymer, made it easy to do, is I attached one to the block here, and then I put another one directly underneath it. And because it's photopolymer, I can make sure that it was straight. I did practice to make sure it worked before I used my Versamark ink to heat set this with the embossing powder. Now that I have my greeting, and I do want to show you where I got that die from. Isn't that wonderful? This comes from the Countryside Corners dies. It's also brand new, and I love it because of the cascading sizes. A definite must. I think you'll really enjoy that. So that's where that came from. I'm going to hold this here so I have an idea of where the clouds are going to go. And I'm going to take the larger cloud first. I'm going to ink that up in the boho blue ink, and I'm going to stamp off because I don't want it to be too dark. And then I'm going to stamp that here. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing now with the smaller cloud. And again, I'm looking. So this one's going to have to be a little bit lower, and I'll stamp that here. I'm not at all concerned that my entire clouds are not going to show. It's totally fine. And if you want to add more, you absolutely can. I'm just cleaning that stamp off camera. I'm going to close that up and get that out of the way. And what we're going to do now is we are going to attach the greeting. And this I decided to use dimensionals. So I'm going to come back over to the dimensionals. And I'm a big fan of making sure that these are well balanced across the back side. I'll go ahead and I'll remove those paper backings using that piercing tool attachment. And then this is going to go here in the center. Just going to line this up and then we'll tack that down. Now that I know that these areas are dry, I am going to open up the card and we are going to work from the inside. Now here in the studio, I keep a pair of scissors with a piece of ribbon on them, which indicate that they're for those sticky, tacky projects. And I know there might be some glue there, and I don't want to gunk up my good scissors. So that's a great tip for you. Dedicate a pair for those gunky jobs. I'm going to use the edge of the boho blue cardstock to help me align this so that it's nice and straight. So that's done with that. And of course, this is going to stay, but I need to cut that vine so it's a little bit shorter. So I'll do the exact same thing here. Now, when I turn this over, we're going to have an adorable scene that's ready to start getting attached to the center of this card. But I decided to add an additional layer so that I could play up the white and really bring out the colors of the designer series paper. So I'm going to come back here to the silicone craft sheet, and I am going to flip this upside down, and we are going to add adhesive here to the back side. Once again, this is a very strong adhesive, so I don't have to add long strips of the tape all the way around. I'm just making small dashes. And then this is going to go here. And again, I can't do anything straight, so we're going to turn it sideways, and I'm going to hover and look to see if I have about equal margins all the way around, and then when I'm happy, we'll tack that down. I don't like to go like this because sure enough, something's wet or I have ruined it. So I'm going to go ahead and press it from the inside. Now, obviously a dark marker or pen would show here, but I decided to use those dies I shared with you one more time. And I die cut one of those ahead of time, just so I'd have a really pretty placement here on the inside. So let's go ahead and let's attach this to the inside of the little card as well. And again, I'm just looking to center it. And we'll attach that here. This now is going to go here on the card base. You'll remember that we have this taped together so that it won't move, so that we can make sure that this card is going to fit on these panels. So I want to give you a couple tips before you get started. The white area has to fall within these inside creases, otherwise the card will not fold, because this is going to create an accordion fold. You want the top of the white to measure the top of the card and the bottom as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this slightly to make it easy for my hand. I'm coming in with my Stampin' Seal Plus and I'm working right across those panels. And I'm going to add sufficient adhesive to make sure that it's going to stick. Like I said, this is very, very strong, so I'm not worried. Once I'm happy with this, I am going to turn this to make it easy from my visual standpoint. And I often like to stand. So I'm going to look and hover over the top. My fingers are underneath to help guide me with that placement. And I'm looking to make sure my top is aligned. and I'm within those score lines. And then once I'm happy, I'm going to press. I'm going to open this up and then just press to adhere those to those inside pop-up accordion panels that were to the back side. Now I'm going to flip this over and I'm going to use my Take Your Pick tool to help me remove that tape. And I reuse these. There's no reason to waste them. So I'm going to have one here and then I have another one here, and then these will be ready for me to use on my next project. Give that a really good push, and then you can see now what's going to happen. This is going to come in and this is going to come in, and you can see we have plenty of room here, so nothing's going to get crunched. It's going to fit in an A2 medium envelope, but you're going to see that it's pretty thick. So you're going to need extra postage. So make sure you keep that in mind. But here's what I love about the card. It actually is freestanding. So it's going to need a little bit of balance at first, and then the card is going to stand and display. So beautiful accordion panels. And then of course the card opens up for your greeting on the inside. Now I cannot wait to share these other cards with you that I made that are a slight variation to this one. And the next one I have for you uses another bundle that's new that's called Beautiful Balloons. It's been one of my favorites because balloons go for every type of celebration, including baby cards, retirement, graduation, promotions, you name it. And there's stars inside the die set that coordinate. So here is the card I made with that one, and I love this new bubble bath color. So here is the accordion all opened up, and you're going to see how the panels come together. And I just die cut the balloon from designer series paper. So pretty. This designer series paper has a gorgeous myriad of colors to it, and it's called Bright and Beautiful, and you'll find it in the new annual catalog. I die cut the star from silver foil and then played up that string with a little bit of silver elegant trim and some silver gems. And then of course on this one, we have the inside where I did some stamping from that stamp set. So you might be looking, thinking, well, what's the difference? Well, the difference here is I added an extra layer of white behind the center panel that I did not do to this one. So the dimensions for this one are slightly wider and taller than this one, which are all represented in your project sheet for you. So that's two, and then I have one more for you. Now this one uses a stamp set that's been around for a bit. It's been carried over. It's called Apple Harvest. Not just for fall, because I love apples all time of the year. And while I made mine red, remember apples come in a myriad of colors, so have some fun coloring those. Now I also used a greeting stamp set for the inside of the card that I want to show you. It's called Wonderful Thoughts. This also has coordinating dies that cuts out all around these words. So really a great addition to your artillery of stamps. And here is that card. So here is the accordion for this one. And again, the panels will come to the inside. And of course, this card opens up. I want to share a tip with you. If you often don't have the designer series paper that you want, use the images in the stamp set to stamp your cardstock tone on tone. Again, the beauty of Stampin' Up! Products is that color coordination. And that's exactly what I did here because I didn't have the designer paper. This uses a fantastic textured embossing folder just to give this a little bit of oomph and some brushed metallic dots on the card. So it makes a great get well card. And of course, those apples can be used for anything. As always, I love to know which one is your favorite. Would you do me a favor and pop a comment down below and let me know? Your feedback is so important to me. Now, while you're here, I want to let you know about a couple things. First and foremost is this. Thank you so much. So many of you have signed up for Stamp Studio memberships. If you're wondering what they are, head over to my website and in the red menu bar at the top, click on memberships. We have level 1 and we have level 2 now. Level 1 is $5 for the whole month, and you'll receive a tutorial from me every single Monday morning that's not shared on any of my platforms. So I give simple, pretty cards clear up to something a little bit more stepped up. Now you have full reign to use the tutorials however you like. The photos are not watermarked, and you can share and spread those tutorials with others. The only thing you can't do is resell them, and it doesn't matter what country you live in. Now, level 2 debuted here in May, and it is spectacular for $10 a month. Right here on the screen, you'll see the things that are included. And once again, you can head over to my website at lisastampstudio.com and click on memberships. And now mark your calendar. Next Monday is Memorial Day, so we are closed here at Lisa Stamp Studio, so we will not be streaming with you. But I will be back the following Monday, which you can see is June 5th. So go ahead and mark your calendar. We would absolutely love to have you here with us. Grace, thanks so much for helping moderate with me tonight, and I look forward to having you all back with me in 2 weeks on June 5th. Have a wonderful night.